They called him the Boy Wonder. At an age when most people are still trying to find their footing in life, Orson Welles was already standing on top of the world, looking down at everyone else. He was a man of infinite appetites for art, for storytelling, and for a level of creative control that the film industry simply wasn't designed to give. Orson Welles didn't just make movies, he redefined what a movie could be. But in the process of changing the world at 25, he created a myth that he would spend the next 40 years trying to live up to. This is the story of a genius who was too big for the screen, and a man whom Hollywood loved to watch but hated to work with. To understand the legend, you have to go back to 1938. Before there were blockbusters or viral trends, there was The Voice. A 23-year-old Orson Welles took to the radio airwaves and convinced an entire nation that Martians were invading New Jersey. The War of the Worlds broadcast was a masterstroke of psychological manipulation. Welles didn't just read a story. He used the medium of radio to create a fake reality so convincing that people fled their homes in terror. He became an overnight sensation, not just a celebrity, but a threat. He had proven he could control the masses with nothing but a microphone and an imagination. Hollywood came calling with an offer that was, and remains, unprecedented. RKO Pictures gave Welles a golden ticket, total creative control. He could write, direct, and star in his own projects without interference. It was the ultimate dream for an artist, and the ultimate nightmare for the studio executives who lived for control. Welles walked onto the RKO lot and famously remarked, "This is the biggest electric train set a boy ever had." With that train set, he built Citizen Kane. At age 25, without any formal training in filmmaking, Welles ignored the rules because he didn't know they existed. He and cinematographer Greg Toland experimented with deep focus, keeping everything from the foreground to the distant background in sharp clarity. They used low-angle shots, even cutting holes in the studio floor to get the camera lower, to make characters look like looming, powerful gods. He used sound like a composer, layering dialogue and silence in ways that hadn't been heard since the dawn of talkies. But Citizen Kane wasn't just a technical marvel, it was a political assassination. By basing the main character on the newspaper tycoon William Randolph Hearst, Welles declared war on the most powerful man in America. Hearst fought back with everything he had, banning his papers from mentioning the film and attempting to buy the negative just to burn it. Welles had created the greatest film in history, but in doing so, he had alienated the very power structures he needed to survive. The fall was as spectacular as the rise. His next film, The Magnificent Ambersons, was snatched away from him by the studio while he was filming in South America. They cut 40 minutes, changed the ending, and burned the deleted footage. Welles called it a mutilation. The industry that once hailed him as a prodigy now saw him as an expensive risk. He was a man who demanded perfection in an industry that prioritized the bottom line. For the rest of his life, Orson Welles became a cinematic nomad. He was forced into exile in Europe, acting in mediocre films to fund his own masterpieces. He became the face of the great unfulfilled, with dozens of unfinished scripts and reels of film scattered across the globe. We remember him today as a giant in a cape, doing magic tricks on talk shows, or booming his voice in wine commercials just to pay the bills. Yet, even in the twilight of his career, the genius was still there. When he directed Touch of Evil in 1958, he opened the film with a 3-minute tracking shot that remains one of the most studied sequences in cinema history. He was proving once again that even a broken Orson Welles was light years ahead of everyone else. Orson Welles once said, "I started at the top and have been working my way down ever since. But history sees it differently. He didn't work his way down. He stayed at the top, and the world simply stopped looking up." He remains the ultimate cautionary tale of what happens when you have too much vision for a world that prefers the safe and the familiar. He was the man who broke the rules, and in doing so, he gave us the modern language of cinema. Rest in peace, Orson. The train set is still yours.